Headlines are screaming that after 10 years of crash and stagnation, the country is on the move. So whether it's the number of kilometres driven by vehicles on Irish roads, the number of passengers carried by public transport, or the amount of freight being moved by road and sea, the economy is motoring. But for the 2 million of us that take to the road every morning, this is the reality. On average, we're now spending more than 8 days every year sitting in traffic. But it's not just our commute times and our blood pressure that's on the rise. It's also the emissions from our exhausts. As a country, we have committed to dramatically reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, yet they are relentlessly climbing. And transport is a large and growing part of this problem. In this episode, I'm going on a journey to see what the future of transport means for us car owners and how we can get Ireland moving into the 21st century. If there's one innovation that helped define 20th century progress, it's the combustion engine. From air travel to factory floors, and of course, the motor car. Internal combustion engines have revolutionized the lives of billions. It's not just a necessity. There's a freedom that comes with having a car. It's my own personal space, and I have control over when and where I choose to travel. I'm not sure that I'm ready to give all that up yet. But with fossil-fueled combustion engines come carbon emissions, greenhouse gases that are warming our planet and dangerously changing our climate. As well as environmental, there are financial implications. Failure to meet our emission reduction targets, like those in 2020, could result in hundreds of millions in fines. That's less than 2 years away. The EPA is funding research into how we can solve this problem of decarbonising transport, with a project headed by Professor Brian Caulfield.
What will happen if we don't meet our targets?
When we don't meet our targets, what will happen is we will have to either buy carbon credits from other countries or have to pay penalties for this. So the cost of this missing our targets should be weighed against the cost of investment in transport.
Well, then who are the worst offenders when it comes to the emissions?
When it comes to transport emissions, generally the private car and heavy goods vehicles is where the majority of our emissions are from.
Surely we must have some idea of how to at least start down this road. What are we doing?
The answers are, it's not rocket science. It is get people to move more together using public transport. When you have to move on your own, you either walk or you cycle. And then if you are using a car, that it's the lowest emission car possible.
Do you think that if we are going to have cars in the future, at least a move to electric vehicles is the way to go?
At the moment, it seems to be the only way to go. There's certain parts of the country that we won't be able to serve with public transport to the extent that we need to. So they will have to be electric cars in those areas if we are to reach our targets. Today, Ireland has about 2 million cars on the road, but only a tiny 0.2% are electric. If these cars really are the way to go, why are so few of us driving them? I'm going to meet some electric car owners to find out what it's like to own one. First stop, Mallow, County Cork. And what better way to get there than in an electric car? I'm driving down to Cork today. It's about a 250-kilometre trip, so I'm going to need to charge up along the way. There's a petrol station coming up that has a fast charger. I'll be able to get the car up to about 80% in, say, 25 minutes, so it's time to stop and have a coffee and a bit of a break. The average stop at a petrol station is 12 minutes. And while charging takes more time, on a long journey like this, the break is welcome. Less than 25 minutes later, the car is nearly 90% charged, and the only cost was the cup of tea. This is the 2016 Nissan Leaf. It has a range of about 250 kilometres on one charge, but that's in ideal conditions. So if it's cold and you need the heater, or it's warm and you need the aircon, or you're going up a lot of hills, or you're even driving a little bit too fast, then you'll see the range on it dramatically reduce. It's a nice car to drive. It has good acceleration, it has all the modern features, so I'm actually enjoying the trip so far.
It took 2 charging stops, and it's now 250 kilometres later. But I'm at the mallow home of Jan Bart Sprang, a recent convert to electric vehicles, or EVs, to those in the know.
Hi, Lara. Nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you. Come on in.
Thank you so much.
Are they actually easy to manage, to run? Do they break down like a petrol or diesel car?
Oh, no, they don't break down at all. Maintenance costs are very low. There's only one moving part, which is the main engine. There is no gearbox. There is no, say, alternators. There are no starter motors. None of the usual stuff that breaks. So maintenance is very, very cheap on them.
Well, can we try it out, Jan Bart? Is that all right?
Yeah, you want to go for a drive?
I suppose we better unplug it first.
Better unplug it first.
Okay.
This is my home charge point.
And how much did it have to, how much did you pay to get that in?
This came with the car. It was included in the purchase of the car.
Oh, so they just put this in for free for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you buy a new electric car in Ireland, you get a home charge point for free.
And how much does it cost you then in electricity?
If you charge on night saver electricity, you can get a full charge for less than €2.
Okay, and then there'd be like 60 quid worth of petrol pretty much, wouldn't it?
Not quite, but close enough, yes. So if you get a normal car that can do 600-700 on a full tank, costing you about €40, you'd get the same distance in an electric car charged at home for about a tenner.
Would you be able to charge your car at the start of the week and not have to charge it again until the other week?
If I only drive to my work, yes, that's exactly what happens. I can go a full work week without charging.
And tell me, like, honestly, do you not get range anxiety with it?
No, not at all, no. The range estimate on this car is very, very accurate. I've had the car for 3 years. I know what it does. I know what it can do. I know where the charge points are. In general, no.
I get range anxiety.
I'm sure you do.
If everyone's experience is like Jan Bart's, then maybe electric cars, or EVs, really could be the solution. But is his experience shared by all electric car owners? Dave Robbins is a father of one who lives in the capital and bought an electric car for environmental reasons. It should be simple, right?
So Dave, you got into electric vehicles for all the right reasons, it seems, but it feels like you've had a lot of problems along the way.
It has been kind of a mixed experience, because when you buy an electric vehicle, you get a free home charger, but you have to have a driveway for them to do that. They won't install it in an apartment or in a terraced house where the lead might have to cross a public footpath, for instance. There were 2 chargers near our house. One only a couple of 100 yards away and one about a kilometre away, but local residents objected to them and petitioned their councillors and petitioned the ESB to have them removed, and they were removed.
So Dave, then how do you actually charge your car?
It is really difficult. I mean, the nearest one now is a fast charger out in Templeogue. It's about 5 or 6 kilometres away. What really freaks me out is longer driving down the country, where you're just really concerned that you're going to have enough to get to the next charger. And if it's a fast charger, it'll charge your car to about 80% in 20 minutes. But if, for instance, that's out of order and you have to go onto a slow charger, that could be 3 or 4 hours. And you're thinking, I'm not going to get there, you know, today. I should have taken a couple of days off for this journey. You know, it is a bit of a lottery.
And do you think then that the infrastructure is one of the things that discourages people from investing in electric vehicles?
You know, you get people who can have a charge point at home and they have a charge point at work, and they're fine. They can do their commute and it's fantastic for them. For people who live in apartments or live in terraced housing and don't have a driveway, it is a problem, and I think it is off-putting, and especially when they don't see any investment going into the infrastructure. And if they need to make long journeys, you know, that is a real problem. It needs to be made easier than driving a petrol or a diesel car. At the moment, it is so much more difficult. It needs to be the other way around.
Today, we have less than 5,000 EVs on our roads. David's experience couldn't be more different from Jan Bart's, and it seems to be all down to infrastructure and access to reliable and fast charging points. In part 2, we're in the Netherlands, a country with one of the highest rates of electric car ownership in the world, to find out what's behind the rapid uptake there.
And what we've done here, we basically said, okay, everyone can drive this car.
With over 110,000 already on the roads and ambitious plans for many more, the Dutch have really started to embrace electric cars. To explain the reasons why is Annabel van Zandt from Living Labs Smart Charging, a think tank focused on electrifying transport.
In the Netherlands, over the past couple of years, we have really worked on a nationwide network of charging infrastructure. So you can almost be certain that when you drive somewhere, there will be at least 1 or 2 charging points.
In fact, in the Netherlands, a country about half the size of our own, there are over 27,000 public chargers, while back in Ireland, there are a little more than 1,200.
Annabel, we're trying to move towards a future where we decarbonise our transport system. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing in the Netherlands to achieve this.
Well, first of all, it's really important to get this model shift. So people who are now traveling by car, get them, for instance, to cycles. But then the big challenge is also the transportation that is there. And you know that you can't just get rid of all the cars. How do you make them as sustainable as possible? And not only private cars, but also buses and trains.
Do you expect the number of electric vehicles to grow in the Netherlands over the coming years?
Yes, what we already see is that the number of electric cars is increasing significantly and almost in an exponential way. And as the Netherlands, we have made an agreement that in 2025 we want 1 million electric cars.
Tell me a little bit about the challenges of doing that.
We run into several grid issues. So how can we balance the grid with more electric cars that will charge at the same time in the morning and in the evening, more renewable energy that has a different pattern, so it's more or less produced over the day. And how can we combine those two and how can we couple them in an efficient way? And in the Netherlands, we believe that part of it is really using the battery of an electric vehicle as a vital element in this. So you can charge your car when there is plenty of solar, wind and renewable energy. And in the evening, when there is a high peak load on the grid, you can use the energy from your car and not transport all the energy in the grid.
So you're talking about integrating the system, you're talking about making this a smart system where the car works with the grid.
Yeah, so what we see now, and we also try to research this, and we do a lot of tests to make this a standard, not only in the Netherlands, but internationally. So in the Netherlands, there are indeed pilots, and there are certain areas that already make use of this concept.
What Annabel described is fascinating. To see it in action, I went to meet Robin Berg, an entrepreneur who has turned this concept into an exciting new business.
We started actually as an internet company, and then we really started looking for better ways to make a better business case for solar. So now we use electric cars as storage for renewable energies here in the neighborhood, and the cars are being used in a car sharing program.
Robin's business model is ingenious, using the electric car battery to help balance the natural fluctuations of renewable energy. This means that when supply is high, the cars are charging on cheap renewable power. But when supply is low, they return some of that stored energy to power homes.
So you have a huge battery right in front of your house. It can power up your house for like 2 weeks, and that's just sitting there just for driving. And basically, for driving, you use only like a quarter of the battery for your daily commute. But most of the time, you don't use the rest of the battery in your car. And that's really a waste.
And at the moment, are you in a situation where your car can power up your house, or is the infrastructure not there yet for that?
Yeah, we actually had the first charging station in Europe that could do both ways. So not only charging on the sun, but also discharge the car. And basically, we can run now for 24 hours a day on our own solar power by using the car battery as a storage.
How many of these type of chargers are there where you can both charge up your car but also discharge it? Are they becoming more frequent?
Yeah, we have now like 50 of those chargers here in the Utrecht region, and we are scaling up, and that will in the end make it a cleaner and cheaper system.
His ambitions don't stop there. He's taken this a step further with a car-sharing scheme. Okay, so tell me a bit about then this shared car scheme.
What we did is basically offer a car in a car sharing program in which people for 100 euros a month can actually drive a fully electric car on a daily basis.
Yeah. And this is one of your cars here then, is it?
Yeah, this is one of the cars we are using. We have now like 30 of these cars in operation. And we have a really simple app which you can use to open it up.
Can you show me?
Yeah, sure. And just click open and then check in. So that's basically how simple it is, and now I can start and drive.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And everything comes from solar energy. Everything that fuels this car is all solar.
Yeah, these charging stations are connected directly to our solar installations on the roofs of the schools we have here.
I love the pragmatism the Dutch bring to transport and new technologies. So it made me wonder if the same ingenuity is applied to that quintessentially Dutch way of getting around, cycling. Utrecht transport engineer Frans Jan van Rossum decided there was only one way to tour his city.
So tell me a bit then about this bridge and these cycle lanes here.
Yeah, well, this used to be a car-oriented street. Lots of cars running through the streets, also lots of bicycles before with cobblestones. And we wanted to better this infrastructure for cyclists. And this is connecting our newest suburb of Leidse to the inner city. And this is the busiest cycling point in the whole city.
How busy are we talking about?
On this route, there's an average of 34,000 cyclists per day, east to west. And we have a peak, one day in summer, 41,000 users per day.
41,000 people passing this point every day.
Those are numbers that you normally see only on highways. Car highways, this large number of cyclists.
So I mean, in theory, that's taking up to 41,000 cars off the road.
Yeah.
Okay, Frans, so should we head on, I suppose?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Hopefully. Frans, I mean, this is all wonderful and it's beautiful, but it feels like it must cost an absolute fortune.
Well, it costs a lot of money, of course, but compared to car infrastructure, it's nothing.
Wow.
So a bridge for cars like this, for 2 lanes, will cost you probably twice as much or maybe 3 times as much.
And do you have an annual budget for investing into cycling infrastructure?
Yeah, I have a 4 annual budget, 4 years, and the budget in total is 190 million euros.
So it's around about 50 million euro a year?
Yeah.
So then, tell me a little bit more about this 50 million. It just seems like a lot of money to me.
Yeah, well, in absolute terms, maybe a lot of money. But if you see what the societal benefits are of these investments, they are huge. We calculated in total annual 250 million benefits, societal benefits per year.
So you're putting in 50 million and you reckon you're saving 250 million?
Yes.
How is that possible?
Well, it's possible because if you calculate how much money you earn, because you have less traffic jams, you have better health for people who use the bikes. If you all calculate it together, we have a model for that, then you come up with the amount of 250 million euros just for the city of Utrecht. More and more people want to live in cities, and the problem of moving around is getting more and more important. How do you do that? Can you facilitate it with cars? No, it's impossible. There's not enough space. We have a medieval town with very narrow streets, and it's not possible for everybody to go there by car, simply. That's very simple. So I think the last maybe 10 years, especially in Utrecht, mobility products have been turned towards cycling more and more and more. No, and actually the car drivers, they benefit the most because there's not so much traffic jams.
Our bike trip around town was an enlightening experience. Cycling here is treated as an equal. It's just another mode of transport, and the evidence is in the planning and investment. The transport system is so well designed here, with so much choice, that cars are now banned from some city centre streets. And instead of opposition, shops and cafes once reluctant are now asking for more pedestrianised streets, as business has never been better.
Utrecht, which is about half an hour south of Amsterdam. And what I'm finding is it's not just taxis and it's not just cars, but an awful lot of public transportation system is also electrified. Right here, there's an induction plate on the road, and as the bus pulls in, which is pulling in right now, we're going to see passengers getting on and off, but the bus is actually charging itself up off the road as this is happening.
It's obvious that the Dutch are reaping the rewards from their investment in clean, sustainable transport infrastructure.
The Netherlands is proving that transport can be sustainable, but it's not just one thing, it has to be an entirely integrated system. They have so many electric cars here, they have buses that are starting to be electrified, and everybody seems to cycle everywhere. And the cities have a great feel about them. They seem to be a really nice place to live and they work together. This is a template that we could bring anywhere, and it's really inspirational.
Back here in Ireland, we're starting to see some of these concepts take hold. With its new line, the Luas now crisscrosses Dublin and is taking thousands of cars off the road. There are also new car sharing schemes like Yuko and GoCar, which are spreading across the country.
The average cost of keeping a car on the road in Ireland every year is around 11 grand. Now, I don't spend that much myself, but that's still not cheap. If we only paid for cars when we actually used them, it would completely transform our towns and cities.
Bike sharing schemes have rolled out to Limerick, Galway, Cork and Dublin. These are offering a viable alternative for short hops if you're lucky enough to live near them. But while these are all great schemes, combined they're only transporting a small fraction of the population. I had to ask Brian if he felt we were doing enough.
Do you think that we are going fast enough?
No, I don't think we're going fast enough at all. I think we really need to accelerate how quickly we invest in public transport. That has a better return rate, and it has a better return rate in terms of decarbonising. I think we should really consider whether we build more motorways in this country. I don't think that's a road we should be going down.
Tell me a bit about who the onus is on to fix this. It doesn't seem like there's one easy answer. Is it my job? Is it your job? Is it the government's job?
It's everyone's job, and the government and the state should be there to facilitate this. There's an awful lot of good policy coming out of the Department of Transport at the moment, but it needs to be funded.
But even with these costs, are we saving down the line? Do we have to make this investment?
Yes, we do. We have to make the investment. If we look at the storms that happened recently, Ophelia and Storm Brian, the cost of repairing from those is so high, and if these events are going to destroy our cities, we need to think about the cost of repairing our cities. So the cost of moving towards public transport and decarbonising our transport fleet should be offset against that.
We don't need to look further than Ireland to see the early effects of climate change. In only a few months of 2017, we witnessed roads washed away, flooding across the country, and even a hurricane. To have any chance of stopping climate change spiralling out of control, we need to rapidly reduce emissions around the world. And here in Ireland, we're not doing nearly enough. Personal responsibility and making the right choices will get us some of the way. But to bring about the scale and speed of change required, it must be matched by investment.
Getting this right is not just an investment in the future of transport or even our economy. It's an investment in our environment and in a brighter future.